time to the killer article during things. We got more from the songs than I am Vice. Yeah, they did their deal. I wasn't great. Sorry. Oh, look at my son knew about it. What did he share? I said it to my son. He goes, really? I know that. I'm like, good. Dad doesn't know that.
Yeah, what a cool place. I am totally that's cool. I'm in New York.
Okay.
But now,
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yes, but we are really fortunate to do.
I'm gonna miss the magic of that.
Sure.
What's up, all the different streaming platforms that we are currently on? How are you guys today?
So fun.
Well, cool.
Well, so good to meet you. Thanks for the history.
We'll see you at the show. Did you tell him it's not? I want him to stay.
Oh, you left that part out.
Leave that out.
Apparently the place is haunted. Maybe we'll see a ghost.
That's correct. Yeah, I was here 3 weeks ago and I spoke to Laura about Atomic Pizza, and I met with Mike Bigley and Sarah Burke from the UAW and the Donaldson here.
Are you Casey? I am.
Hi, I'm Conrad.
Conrad.
Nice to meet you.
It's his birthday today.
Somebody else?
No, you look great. So, do you?
I didn't do a tie because I don't want to show him.
No, you don't want to show. That's what. Yeah, we don't wear ties either.
Everything I see. Sometimes he does. Sometimes he does.
He's a casual. So, you know, two-minute introduction. Does that work for you?
Minute 10 seconds.
Minute 10 seconds.
That's really nice.
Times are real great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Heidi will be introducing you.
Yeah,
She's a college
pizza when I was here. Last night, fantastic. If I came out to Cresco, that I should have the cinnamon chili pizza.
Right.
I haven't had it because I haven't been back since December.
But it's still
Late December. Then it goes for a week.
So we've actually got this area closed here, Matt. So maybe put you right here instead.
Okay, are there anyone going to be seeing
I just don't want to give people the idea that this is an open area. That's all. If you want, you can sit maybe in the front row or something.
Okay.
Here.
I just wanted to.
Atomic Pizza.
I forgot her name, but she said to come here.
Who
But
did?
I forgot her name, like curly hair, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Well, I guess just go in the front.
wherever you want me to go works.
What's your opinion? I heard that's a local thing.
So when you have children,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a conventional. Yeah. You know what? I've never had Yeah. That's what I was told was that. But I mean, you know, I like Atomic when I was there. I think I got like their big like Atomic pizza, and it was so good. But then they were like,
All right.
and they rotated my hair.
What do we mean by?
Number one with the tape.
Yeah.
So this town hall is due to start in approximately 13 minutes.
So do you like Atomic pizza?
So what I've been doing.
1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
I know you guys. I was supposed to go to the Chamber of Commerce and speak to you guys. Jason's right, right?
yeah.
I didn't come by. Like I was like, there. I was like, this name sounds so familiar. Why do I remember that? I was going through my notes real quick. I was like, I was supposed to come by the Chamber of Commerce and speak to you guys. I ran out of time when I was here a month ago. I was like,
So keep it with Neil.
yeah. I didn't know it was Neil's birthday. So I should show him a text. Yeah. No, not yet. Yeah, so I met the. How are you?
Good.
times to be smart. So she said, she's like, oh, I'm spiffed. I wasn't able to go to the Chamber of Commerce when I was here a month ago, but now I'm finally getting to It was a very, I was like, oh, Jason, like, yeah.
It does.
Oh, you look, it's a little, it's one of those retractable easements. So normally you like clip it here, but I got it for Christmas.
Check 1, 2, 3, 4.
Cresco theater, right? Apparently it's in the printed.
Yeah. And you know how we got it? He was in bed. Oh, really? So I told him, and he's got a big black eye. So I told him, you gotta tell him a better story. I told him to come right. Oh.
It was kind of like, off the record.
Like she showed me this morning, it's kind of like Kansas City.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Check that out. Yeah. He's a huge guy, right?
Yes. It was excellent today, actually.
He smiles.
Right there. Not bad, right?
Very good. Josh got there.
Curling.
It's a tie.
I grew up bitch with something like that.
I've never done curling. If you guys said curling out here, I would. You know, when I was like here for a couple of days. I was telling him about pizza. He said, when you come back to Cresco on Wednesday, he said, I like pizza with cinnamon bread and sharp pizza.
She grew up in Mississippi.
She didn't want to say it. I really wish that she had. I mean, like that would have been. Yeah, well. And it was also like, that's the thing about most of people's faces, they don't say exactly what they're saying. It's on like. I mean, Sarah, you could have just told me.
It's almost like a
Lucky a little bit. Like, I just had power kind of a little bit, like, to get fluctuation. But I can't, like, physically really at all.
Okay. Do you mind if I like record this into content sort of? So Spiff, what I know you're here today to see what do you know about
Not a lot of people are willing to take the day off.
Salmon roll. It is good.
No, you guys can. I don't know who that
what do you
Oops, sorry.
are you interested in Mr. Boxing?
Are you okay? September or August or something, or I don't know. We're gonna. Yeah, September. It doesn't really have to be in. It doesn't have to be in.
September, it can be like spring, like you know, like
Yes, gearing up. Yes.
I'm just tired of fighting the rain, cold.
It's always raining cold.
yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the third. Yes.
Is it the 30?
Yeah.
And then you have like the like.
I thought about August. But if we did it later, it may still be light.
Yeah, and you'd still be like,
We couldn't do it.
then the blow part. Yeah.
We change it up every time anyway. But we have all these black lights. So it's like, it's so cool to use. They were given to us.
Oh yeah.
I still want to
Cresco Chamber of Commerce, right?
What?
Shut it down.
You know,
Not necessarily at Halloween, but
actually, we both need to just
but it's
get
kind of
together. You know what I mean? Just
you
And
know,
I'd love to get your thoughts.
monsters like
Actually, Laura, I was
because I quit once before when your dad was still in Las Vegas and we were in Decorah.
yeah,
And I quit
like really have to know.
over a month.
We'll see.
And then he came back and I was like,
This guy really wanted to have to do it, so I got him to school.
so we're here to see
I was
one of the
at one of my workout classes.
what do you think about this?
Daughters.
Really?
What did she say? She's like, oh, there's that guy that's so
Oh yeah? Yeah, I bet.
So
Yeah.
that's what she about.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he has his basketball that has to last up. Then he can maybe he's done for his
I can't be on
I've never done it.
I've neither.
It's good to know about if you're interested.
you're like so many people said. We don't need to make it great together. We need to fix it. It doesn't need to be
Do you think that this
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
is going to be our world?
I know. I did the online decorating thing or whatever, and I mean, math, I get it. Like, I like that.
Stephen Street.
But
Shake up the
it'll be an experience.
I didn't know that.
I've never, it's always something that I wish more into it. I've not been good at into it, and I complain, but I do
So it's nice to kind of start being involved and start adult. Like I slowly am learning things.
Yeah. The third.
That's the, I think you'll be going.
Plus, and I didn't want to do it because you have to register.
Here on the left, in the second row there.
Right there?
Yep.
Okay.
Is somebody sitting here?
I was that now there.
No, it's there.
So we're not sure.
We don't know.
Oh, I think that's nice.
I've spent a lot of time covering Democrats.
Laura, is this your coat?
Yes, I can take it. No, that's not my coat.
Oh, no, it's not.
This one. I'm like, yeah, oh no, wait.
It's almost the
sure,
same
I'll
color.
take that one.
Is that Laura?
I couldn't remember. I knew I laid it down somewhere.
But that looks like a nice one. Yeah.
Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Sound check, 1, 2, 3.
Nice to meet you.
Yep. Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Sound check, 1, 2, 3.
OMG, I'm sorry. Yeah, not my proudest moment in life. LOL. Dude.
But I have to do it just like this.
What?
Or do I turn it around? Okay, so I turn it around. No. Well, see, that doesn't work for me.
This.
Uh-huh.
That,
Oh,
that way.
okay.
So when you push this button.
Push that.
Well, you don't have to push that. I was just showing you.
That's the only reason I want it. Then I could just buy it. Fashion ones, so we have film, and stuff down at the thing, and process stuff, developed it, and then we got pictures. We got them after we filmed it. And I don't have that luxury. I mean, yeah, I could go all the way to
How's everyone doing tonight? How's everyone doing? Thank you so much for coming. So we've got a great run of show for you this afternoon. What's so exciting is that you are about to see the next president of the United States. So it's time to get a little bit amped up in here. I'm also going to ask you to make sure to silence your phones. Make sure to, respect the speakers and the crowd. We've got a great show, but we're going to start by introducing one of our best field organizers in the state to talk about the importance of volunteering. Here's Lauren. Give her a round of applause.
Hey guys.
across. I don't know where he is. He's here from California too. Where is he? I don't know where he is. But he drove all the way from Sacramento. So definitely got to go meet him outside. But you know, I'm here because I've spent the last 5 years working for a tech startup. It's wildly successful. Had a great job. And about 6 months ago, my job was actually automated. So there are now robots doing my job. So, you know, I started learning about automation, which led me to learn about Andrew Yang. And I started learning about his other policies, and I'm like, this is definitely the candidate for me. Not only is this the candidate for me, this is the candidate for everybody. Like his slogan says, he's not left, he's right, he's forward. That being said, I really, really, really believe that if we all come together, we can truly get him in the White House. So definitely come up to me, any of the other organizers in the front. We can sign you guys up to volunteer. I always tell people one door knocked is the equivalent of $240 worth of donations. So it's super important that if you're interested, you can, again, talk to me or anyone up there so we can get you signed up. You gotta get him in the White House. Thanks guys for being here. And I should have introduced, she definitely needs a great introduction, Navy vet Heidi Day.
Hello, Cresco. Thank you guys for coming out here. I normally have a pitch that I usually do, but I've just got some exciting news that I have to share. In Howard County, although he was not able to attend our event today, we are so grateful for the official endorsement we received yesterday from Howard County Supervisor Pat Murray. Supervisor Murray said, I, Pat Murray, am proud to endorse Andrew Yang for President of the United States. Andrew is running to create a new way forward for America, one that focuses on humanity first and rewriting the rules of the 21st century economy to work for us. The issue I am most passionate about and the reason I am endorsing Andrew. Andrew Yang is the only candidate that has insight of what the future of manufacturing will look like. Tech and AI advancements will reshape how companies build and refurbish plants going forward. The technology is already available today that can replace 50% of all manufacturing jobs. Andrew gets this. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to the stage the Executive Director of Howard County Business and Tourism in the Cresco Area Chamber of Commerce, Jason Passman.
Thanks, Heidi. I don't get to get up here very often, so thanks everybody for being here. I know a lot of familiar faces out there. They asked me if I'd like to introduce Andrew. I said, you bet, I'd love to do that. So glad to see you all here. And on behalf, honestly, Andrew's in the back there, on behalf of the city of Cresco, on behalf of Howard County, welcome. Welcome to the entire gang that's here and to all the people that are out here. A lot of people that are out here already know the story of where we're at, but we are in a 105-year-old building, built and still being used today for the purpose of when it was constructed. So what a glorious building we get to be in. The local folks here, we get to utilize it every night with a movie, or we have live plays and whatever, but just for the gang that's here, pretty cool, and I'm glad they took the opportunity to be here and see this cool venue. Also welcome, many of you know this, but welcome to the biggest swing county in the nation. These folks travel all over the countryside, but if you really want to make a difference, come to where the swing really happens, and that's right here in Howard County. So welcome to that. And I'd be remiss every time I get a mic. Thank you for coming and visiting the home of not only one of the greatest humanitarians to ever walk the planet, but Dr. Norman Borlaug. So we appreciate the gang for being here for that. Every time I get in front of somebody, I got to mention that, and I won't go into the whole speech because I know that you guys are a well-educated group on Dr. Borlaug, but always worth mentioning. So, they said keep it short, so without further ado, this guy's been traveling all over northern Iowa. I know they've had trips yesterday and today. They've been fighting the weather. We got the perfect ice for them out here. I'm sure they're making a great time. But Andrew is an entrepreneur, an author, lawyer, philanthropist, currently running for the Democratic nomination for the President of the United States, Mr. Andrew Yang.
Thank you, Jason. Hello, Cresco. Hello. This stage is so fun. How many of you all know Rob Sand? He's a native son of this place. He just texted me, said, when I come to town, get some Mabes pizza.
Yeah. No, we don't have babes anymore.
Was he kidding?
Very close.
No.
There used to be a Babes here, but it closed.
Really?
Yeah, it closed.
Oh, I thought I saw a sign. Is the sign still there? But
Yeah.
Wow. Does Rob know this?
I'm gonna tweet it right now.
There's me. Go ahead. Let Rob know. You deserve better guidance from your state auditor. It's phenomenal to be here in Iowa. Every time I come here, I get energized because you all have the future of the country in your hands. And what Jason said about this being the swingiest of the swing counties in the entire country, I think Iowa is really the battleground for what's happening in our country today. You all know I'm not a career politician, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm here to try and address this fundamental question. How did Donald Trump win Iowa by almost 10 points? Iowa's a very, very purple state, right down the middle. But Trump here won not just by a little, but by a lot. And this county is, even within Iowa, emblematic of how that happened. If you were to turn on cable news, why would you think Donald Trump won? Not a politician.
The wall. The wall.
The wall, build the wall. Oh yeah, build the wall. Russia, perhaps?
Yeah.
Facebook, social media, Hillary Clinton, emails, all kind of mixed together and said this is why Donald Trump won. But I'm a numbers guy. I went looking through the numbers for an explanation and I found one that I think you'll find familiar. And this is what the intro from the endorsement of the supervisor said. We blasted away 4 million manufacturing jobs in this country over the last number of years. And where were those jobs located? Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, and 40,000 right here in Iowa. I have been to those towns, you have been to those towns. After the manufacturing jobs dried up, the shopping district closed, people left, the school shrank, and that community has never recovered. I spent the last 7 years helping to create thousands of jobs in Missouri, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and I saw the same pattern there that you saw here in Iowa. This is how Donald Trump wins this state so significantly. And unfortunately, what happened to those manufacturing jobs is now happening in other parts of the economy. Have you noticed stores closing around where you live here in Iowa? Yeah. We just talked about it. Why are those stores closing? Amazon is a very, very big reason why. Maybe the main reason. Amazon is soaking up $20 billion in business every year, closing 30% of our stores and malls. Most common job in our economy is retail clerk. Average retail clerk is a 39-year-old woman making between $8 and $12 an hour. When her store closes, what is her next job going to be? How much did Amazon pay in taxes last year? Zero. That is your math, Cresco. 20 billion gets sucked out, 30% of stores close, you get zero back. You see some of these changes when you go to McDonald's. Someone just said McDonald's. You see the self-serve kiosk at McDonald's, right? Every location in the country by next year. But the changes are even more pervasive than that. When you all call the customer service line of a big company and you get the bot or the software, I'm sure you do the same thing I do, which is you pound 000, say human, representative, representative, over and over again until you get someone on the line. Raise your hand if that's what you do. Oh yeah, we all do that, because that software is miserable. You're like, I'm sure a human still works for this company somewhere, and I'm going to find them. But in 2 or 3 short years, the software is going to sound like this. Hello, Andrew, how are you? What can I do for you? It'll be fast, seamless, efficient. You might not even know it's software. What is this going to mean for the 2.5 million Americans who work at call centers right now, making $10 to $14 an hour? How many of you all know a truck driver here in Iowa? It's the most common job in 29 states. 3.5 million truckers. My friends in California are working on trucks that can drive themselves. They say they're 98% of the way there. A robot truck just transported 20 tons of butter from California to Pennsylvania 3 weeks ago with no human intervention. Why did they choose butter for this voyage? I have no idea. But if you Google robot butter truck, you will see this story. What is this going to mean for the 3.5 million truck drivers in our country, or the 7 million plus Americans who work at truck stops, motels, and diners that rely upon the truckers stopping and having a meal every day? How many of you have been to Iowa 80 in Davenport? Me too. It's got a really nice buffet. They say that 5,000 people stop there every single day. How many people will stop at Iowa 80 when the trucks no longer have drivers? Not as many, that's for sure. We're in the midst of the most profound technological and economic transformation of our economy in our country's history. The fourth industrial revolution. Chances are you've never even heard a politician say the words fourth industrial revolution until just now. And I am barely a politician. So I was getting accolades and awards for helping create thousands of jobs around the country, and I had this realization that my work was like pouring water into a bathtub that has a giant hole ripped in the bottom. That the water is rushing out the bottom. It helped get Donald Trump into the White House, and now it's going to speed up because technology is getting smarter and faster while we are human beings, and we pretty much stay about the same. So as these changes take place, it's just going to get more and more extreme. I still didn't say, hey, I'm going to run for president because I'm not crazy. I went to our leaders, and maybe this is the crazier point of view, you have to tell me. I went to our leaders in Washington, D.C., and I said, what are we going to do? And what do you think the folks in D.C. said to me when I said, what are we going to do to help our people manage this transition? Put yourself in that D.C. frame of mind. So someone said, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. The three responses I got were, number one, we cannot talk about this. Number two, we should study this further. And number three, this will be familiar, we must educate and retrain all Americans for the jobs of the future. Raise your hand if you've heard someone say something like that. Yeah, we all heard that. It sounds kind of good, but I'm the numbers guy. I said, look, I looked at the studies. Do y'all want to guess how effective the government-funded retraining programs were for the manufacturing workers who lost their jobs? You know it's low because I'm anchoring you low, but you also know it's low because you know human beings. You know 500 manufacturing workers aren't going to walk out of the job and be like, I'm here for my retraining in coding or whatever the heck you're going to retrain me, and that's not the way people are. The success rates of these programs were very, very low, 0 to 15%. Almost half of the manufacturing workers that lost their jobs left the workforce and never worked again. And of that group, almost half filed for disability. You then saw surges in suicides and drug overdoses in those communities to the point where America's life expectancy has now declined for the last 3 years in a row. You know the last time America's life expectancy declined for 3 years in a row? Take a guess. It's fun. Great Depression is a very good guess. It's a little bit earlier. It's the Spanish flu of 1918, a global pandemic that killed millions. You have to go back that far because it's highly unusual for life expectancy to ever decline in a developed country. It ordinarily goes up and up and up because you're getting richer, stronger, healthier. That's the way it's supposed to work, right? But in the US, it's gone down and then down and then down again. When I said this to the folks in DC, one of them said, well, I guess we'll get better at the retraining programs. Another person said something that brought me here to you all today. He said, Andrew, you're in the wrong town. No one here will ever do anything about this because fundamentally Washington, D.C. is a town of followers, not leaders. And the only way we will do anything about it is if you were to create a wave in other parts of the country and bring that wave crashing down on our heads. And I said, challenge accepted. I'll be back in 2 years. So that was 2 years ago, and now we're at the cusp of that wave on February 3rd. I opened and said, you all are among the most powerful people in our country today because you actually can change the whole course of history. I did the math. Do you know how many Californians each Iowan is worth? 1,000 Californians each. So how many of us are here today? Look around this theater. I'm going to give a Trumpian estimate. There are 900 people here today.
Yeah.
It's the biggest theater anyone's ever seen. Best math too. I think there are about 40 people here today, but 40 Iowans would still be one football stadium worth of Californians. That's the power that you all have to actually change where this country's headed. It's a power that other Americans can only imagine. Other Americans look up at our government and see the set of pipes is clogged full of millions and millions of dollars of lobbyist cash, and they despair there's nothing they can do about it. They are generally correct. There is next to nothing they can do about it. But you can. You can flush the pipes clean just like that. That's the power of Iowa, where democracy actually works the way it's intended. So the question is, what are you going to do on February 3rd to send this message that we need to retake our government and get it working for us again, get it working for you? Now, raise your hand if you've seen a TV ad from the campaign or some other messaging. Let's just do the TV ads, let's try that. I'm really glad because we spent a lot of money on those ads. And if you hadn't seen them, we'd be very sad. Have to go back and knock some heads together. So if you've seen the ads or seen messaging from the campaign, you know that I'm saying every American should get $1,000 a month. And I know the first time you saw that, you thought that's too good to be true, a gimmick, that will never happen. But this is not my idea and it's not a new idea. Thomas Paine was for it at the founding of the country. He called it the citizen's dividend for all Americans. Martin Luther King, whose birthday we celebrated 2 days ago, was fighting for this in the 1960s, and it is what he was fighting for when he was killed in 1968. I know this in part because I sat down with Martin Luther King's son in Atlanta, and he said this is what his father was fighting for. It was so mainstream that 1,000 economists, including Milton Friedman, one of the forefathers of modern economic thought, endorsed this plan in the 1960s. Passed the US House of Representatives twice under Nixon in '71, it was called the Family Assistance Plan. And then 11 years later, one state passed a dividend where now everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. And what state is that? Alaska. And how does Alaska pay for it? Oil. And what is the oil of the 21st century?
Data.
Data, technology, AI, self-driving cars and trucks. A study just came out that said that our data is now worth more than oil. How many of you saw that? How many of you got your data check in the mail last month?
Yeah.
If our data is now worth billions of dollars a year and we are not getting any of that value, then who is getting it? Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, the trillion-dollar tech companies that are paying zero or next to zero in taxes. That feeling you have that your community is getting sucked dry, that's because it is getting sucked dry. The biggest beneficiaries are someplace very far from here and they're not paying anything in taxes. So what you have to do is you have to rewire the rules of this economy and get the value that's leaving Cresco, leaving Iowa, and bring it back. Bring it back and put it into your hands in the form of this dividend of $1,000 a month. Particularly because with this trickle-up economy from our people, our families, and our communities up, where does the money actually go? Like, how would you spend it? How much of it would stay right here in Iowa?
60 cents.
Most all of it. Not all of it. You might get your own Netflix password.
Yeah.
But most of it would go to car repairs you've been putting off, and daycare expenses, and Little League signups, and local nonprofits, and religious organizations. All the things that make communities stronger. All the things that would give our kids a real shot at the future they deserve. Raise your hand if you're a parent like me and Evelyn. If you're a parent, you have had this sinking feeling over the last number of years that we're leaving our kids a future that is less stable, less secure, and less prosperous than the lives that we've led. And the reason we feel that way is because it is that way. If you were born in the 1940s in the United States of America, there's a 93% chance you're going to be better off than your parents. That's the American dream. That's what brought my family here. That's what we all aspire to leave to our kids. But if you're born in the 1990s in this country, you're down to a 50-50 shot at doing better than your parents, and it's declining fast. That's how Trump wins. If you're looking up, you're saying, I genuinely am not excited about my future or my kids' future, then you're ready to head in a very, very different direction. This is what we have to change here in Iowa, here in Cresco, here in this county, and say, look, we'll actually invest in our kids, for real. Not just talk about it, but actually do it. I'm not running for president because I dreamt about being president of the United States. Trust me, those were not the conversations in the Yang household. My parents were not like, you're going to be president someday. They were more like, you're terrible, clean your room.
Yeah.
I'm running for president because, like many of you here in this room today, I'm a parent and a patriot. I have seen the future that lies ahead for our kids. They deserve better. I will fight to give them better. But I don't have that ability. Only you do. Only the people of Iowa can actually turn this economy around and make it work for us. And I was talking to Jason in the back. I love local businesses so much. Like, we just ate at T's Cafe across the street. It seemed like it was a family. It was like, mom, dad, and their son Nate. Like, these local businesses are what make the world go round. I ran a small business myself that grew to become, less small, but it was very small for a long time there. And before that, the business I started went bust. I joke that every time you start a business and someone asks you how it's going, what do you say? Great. It's like, my business went great until it failed. So I know how hard it is to start a business, to run a business. We're making it much, much harder than ever before to start and run a business. We're making it so that you're scared to leave your job because of healthcare costs, that if you do start a new business, you're not sure what you're going to do about healthcare. If you hire someone, you have no idea what you're going to do with their healthcare. And if you hire someone then, it's harder to actually give them the kind of benefits that they deserve as an employee. So you're like, maybe, you're a contractor. And meanwhile, you have these giant companies just running roughshod over the whole thing. It used to be Walmart on the retail side, and now Amazon's like a spaceship above Walmart. It makes Walmart seem like child's play. That's the reality of the economy we're in right now. That's why we have the feeling we do. And you are the only people in the country who can change it. You're the only people in the country that can make a case for an economy that works for us, instead of us all trying to plug into this giant capital efficiency machine. We're getting all these messages that things are great. You might have seen them on the headlines if you turn on the news. It says, stock market prices, record high. Corporate profits, record high. GDP, record high. Headline unemployment, looks great. But you still have the sense that things are not actually going well where you live and work. We have record high corporate profits right now. You know what else are record highs in the United States of America right now? Stress, anxiety, depression, mental illness, suicides, drug overdoses, financial insecurity, cost of college, student loan debt. Record lows right now in the United States of America? Starting a business for a young person, getting married, having kids. All the things that you actually associate with a good life are now at record lows in the United States of America. But corporate profits are up. We all see the problem is that in DC, they can't see us anymore. All they can see is the dollar. Washington, DC today is the richest city in our country. Think about that. What do they produce? Whatever they're producing, business is awfully good. Donald Trump said he wanted to drain the swamp. I want to do something a little bit different. I want to distribute the swamp. Why on earth do we employ hundreds of thousands of federal employees in the most expensive city in the country? Why don't we move some of those jobs to Michigan, Ohio, Iowa, Pennsylvania? We'd save billions immediately, and I would argue those regulators would make better decisions because they actually live someplace normal instead of in a DC bubble where they only talk to each other all the time. I'm for term limits for members of Congress, and I know exactly how we can pass it. When you send someone to DC, their job should be to do work for you and then come home. It should not be to go there and try and crouch for as long as possible and be like, ooh, I like it here, let me try and stay. So here's the magic. Here's how we pass term limits. I'll be your president a year from now, thanks to you, thank you. I will go to our legislature and say, hey, we need to pass term limits. 12 years for any member of Congress. But current lawmakers are exempt. Do you think they'll pass that? Oh yeah, they'll pass that the next day. They'll show up and be like, we do this for the American people. Because they're like, ooh, I get to be grandfathered in. I can crouch here. But eventually they'll phase out or lose or age out, and then you'll wind up with a legislature that is actually responding to us. The way that I got here is by just being another American citizen and parent who want to do better for us. And I've gone from nowhere to now 5th in the polls and rising. My campaign raised $16.5 million last quarter in increments of only $35 each. So my fans are almost as cheap as Bernie's. But there are a lot of them. No corporate PAC money. This is an uprising of the people to reclaim our government and make it work for us again. We have to start making our economy work for us because the measurements should correspond to how we're doing and not how the companies are doing. If you have corporate profits going up and life expectancy going down, which is more important? We know it's how we're doing. So instead of GDP and corporate profits, the way we will measure our economic progress as a country after I'm president will be through our own health and life expectancy, mental health and freedom from substance abuse, proportion of Americans who can retire in quality circumstances, student loan indebtedness and affordability, childhood success rates, clean air and clean water. These are the real measurements of how we're doing. And as your president, I will report them to you every year at the State of the Union. I'll be the first president to use a PowerPoint deck at the State of the Union. If you like that visual, you should definitely focus this campaign. Go great. But you can't solve a problem if you don't know what it is. And right now in America, we're being told things are great even though they're not great. And if you actually looked at the mental health indicators, you'd see we're in a mental health crisis, particularly among young people, and actually everyone. Mental health crisis among everyone at this point. 8 Americans are dying of drugs every hour, unprecedented. Civic engagement, down. I know how wrong the economic indicators are because of my own family. My wife is at home with our 2 boys every day, one of whom is autistic. How much is her work valued at in our economic indicators?
0.
She gets a 0. Evelyn and every stay-at-home parent gets a 0. How about caregivers who are taking care of ailing loved ones? Also a 0. How about activists and volunteers in our communities? 0. Coaches and mentors looking out for the next generation? 0. 95% of artists, I hate to say it, 0. Local journalism. We've put almost 2,000 local newspapers out of business over the last number of months. You know what doesn't work as well if you don't have local news? Democracy. Because how the heck can you vote on what's going on in your town if there's no one actually covering what's going on in your town? These are the things that we claim to value the most in our lives, our families, our communities, our democracy, and we're letting them get zeroed out one by one by one. When I talked to Evelyn about this run, talked to her about the core ideas where it's like, look, we all actually are entitled to this wealth. It's just getting siphoned off and spirited away to these giant companies that aren't paying anything back. And my wife Evelyn said to me, how is it that this idea that everyone should be entitled to some portion of this incredible value that we're generating as a country, it was so mainstream 50 years ago, and today it takes the futurist Asian man to somehow make the case for it. Like, what the heck happened in the United States of America over the last 50 years? And what happened over the last 50 years is that we've been collectively conditioned to think that economic value and human value are the same things. That the market tells us how much we're worth, and if the market says you're worth nothing, then you are worth nothing. That's how you wind up telling coal miners that they should learn to code. Because if the market says your current job doesn't have any value, then we have to magically transform you into something that does have value, even if that makes no sense. What we have to say to the rest of the country on February 3rd is that we all have intrinsic value as Americans, as citizens, as shareholders of this country, and as human beings. That is the case for a human-centered economy that will actually work for us and our kids. Where right now our kids are being told, hey, you can vote, it'll be great. And here in Iowa, it actually is pretty important. But kids can tell that we're not setting them up for success. So I want you to imagine a country where each of us can look at our kids and say, your country loves you, your country values you, and your country will invest in you. Your country will actually give you $1,000 a month starting at age 18 when you graduate from high school. We're gonna put you through a financial literacy class beginning of senior year so you know what the heck to do with the money. And then senior spring, we'll send you to another part of the country for a month just to live and work so you have a sense of what other Americans do. And also we know you don't learn anything your senior spring anyway, so you might as well get some life experience out of it. This would be a very, very different type of investment in our people. And people can tell the difference. I've run organizations for decades, just like Jason has, and there are 3 things you can do with your people. Number 1, you do nothing. They leave you within a year, typically. Number 2, you tell them how great they are. It works for about 1 year, and then they leave you between years 1 and 2. Number 3, you actually pay them, you give them raises, you treat them well, you try and create a future for them, and then they may stay with you for years and years, forever. What are we doing right now for our kids? Some combination of 1 and 2. Some combination of nothing and telling them that it's great. But they can tell the difference. It's one reason why they feel like their future is so uncertain, and they're becoming more anxious, depressed, addicted to smartphones, and the whole thing. I know this is probably a little bit bleaker than you guys all expected. No? He's like smiling. He's like, I actually have seen Yang. I gotta know what the story is. But this is all just numbers in reality. I am the numbers guy, and the numbers tell a very, very dark picture. And we have to change that. We have to change that for the sake of our country and for the sake of the next generation. Donald Trump is our president today. He won Iowa by almost 10 points because he had a very, very clear message. He was going to make America great again. What did Hillary Clinton say in response? America's already great. You remember that? Yeah. It's been a long 3 years, I know. But it's coming to an end now. Hillary's response did not go over well with many, many Americans because the fact is the problems are real. We have to acknowledge their depth and severity, but then we need solutions that will actually move our country forward. What were Donald Trump's solutions? Build a wall, turn the clock back, bring the old jobs back. Cresco, you know we have to do the opposite of these things. We have to turn the clock forward. We have to accelerate our economy and society to rise to the real challenges of the 21st century, like climate change and the fact that technology is going to be taking more and more of our jobs. And we need to evolve in the way we see ourselves and our work and our value. I am the ideal candidate for this job because the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. Thank you all very much. You may not know this, Cresco, but math is an acronym. What does it stand for? Make America Think Harder. That's right. That's your job on February 3rd. It's your job to move this country we love so much. Not left, not right, but forward. And I know that's just where you will take us. Thank you. Thank you. Now we have some time for questions. I think we've got a mic runner. Oh, Conrad's got a mic. Go ahead, Conrad. Bestow the mic.
Hello, Andrew. Hello. Is the mic working? Yes. Okay. So I have 1,000 things I would love to talk about for like 2 hours, and I know I can't do that here. I'm a mechanical engineer. I have 45 patents. I live in Grass Valley, California, and I drove from California to here to help you canvas. And I've been working on new patents for high-speed transportation system for tunnels. So the Boring Company type of technologies. And I expect that those are going to come in, and that that kind of technology is going to take over faster than anyone realizes, and Detroit's going to be coming back begging for bankruptcy bailout again. Wow. There is a way, and I've done the math on it, and this is what I'd love to share with you if you can find some time. I'm going to be in Iowa until the vote on the 4th, and I'd love to show you the numbers that I have, but there's a way to build about $800 billion worth of tunnels under all of the 44,000 miles of U.S. interstate highways at no cost to the U.S. government. So how that's done, I'd love to share with you.
Oh, that's so cool. 45 patents. That's 45 more than I have. Let's give him a round of applause. So cool. I love the idea of a massive underground transportation system because it resolves a lot of issues. Wow, that's incredible. Other questions? Conrad, where'd you go? There you are. Why are you hiding the mic, Conrad? Why'd you run to the back of the room? That's not cool. Oh yeah, young questioner. I love it.
I have a question about bullying at school, because at school there's been, not at this school particularly, but there's been a lot of bullying that I've heard, and suicide rates have been going up for young kids like us, and I want to know what you're going to do about it.
Thank you. How old are you?
9.
Wow, you're too young to be talking about this, man. That's not cool. I've got 2 boys who are 7 and 4, so that's very personal. This predates you, possibly. What's your name?
Grayson.
Hey, Grayson. That's a cool name. I was a very shy, introverted kid, Grayson, when I was your age and a bit older. But I had the ability, when I went home, to shut the door and feel like I was alone. Whereas now, kids who are a bit older than you, who have these smartphones, never feel like they're alone. Even when they go home and shut the door, then they take their phone out of their pocket, and then it feels like their classmates are in the room with them. And I think that makes it harder to stop bullying, because you know, obviously like they can reach you wherever you are. And a lot of kids take that stuff very, very much to heart because when you're young, it's very hard to differentiate between what your peers think of you and what you should be thinking. You know who doesn't let their kids use screens at all? The folks in Silicon Valley who make the tech and the products. If you ever want to go to a place where like no one's using that stuff, it's there. And one of my friends there said this to me, Grayson, and this is going to be probably a little bit, some of the terminology might be unfamiliar to you. But he said that we have some of the smartest engineers in the country turning supercomputers into dopamine delivery devices for teenagers and making millions of dollars off of it. And that's why they don't let their kids use it. So one thing I think we can do to help ease the bullying is to try and help parents have more control over the devices that we're giving to our kids. Generally a bit older than you, because I don't think you have a phone yet. But that, to me, a lot of the problems that we're seeing with mental health with our kids is tied to the fact that they have this always-on technology that is rewiring their brains in ways that are not always very healthy at all. So as president, I will set up a new department of the attention economy to get into the guts of these technology apps and say, what choices did you make? And are they the right choices for our kids? And what we're gonna find is that every choice they made had one goal in mind. And what was that goal? Make money, that's right. It was just like, whatever they can do to make more money, they just like turn all the dials up to that. And so we'll get into the guts of those machines and figure out the choices people made and then help them make different choices if they help make kids like you safer, stronger, healthier, and able to go to school without fear of bullying.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't want to make too much of this, Grayson. I also think having a president who's not a bully would be helpful.
What is your position on labor unions? And
I am very, very pro-labor union. I love labor unions. They're like a fortress against a storm that have helped make people have better, healthier, middle-class lives and help stand up for workers' rights. I'll tell you a story that might be fun. When I first came to the state, a guy named Chris Larson, some of you might know Chris. Anyway, he's a UAW organizer. He gave me a copy of a documentary called Brothers on the Line about the formation of the UAW with Walter Reuther. So I watched this documentary with my wife, and I was blown away. Where Walter Reuther got shot in his own home, his brother got shot, like the crazy fight that these union organizers had to go through to try and set up the unions to fight for workers' rights was brutal. It was, very, very beyond rough. And they made it, but then now unions have been under assault for the last number of decades and membership has been cut in half. So this $1,000 a month dividend that I'm championing actually was first proposed by a labor union leader named Andy Stern, who used to run the SEIU. And he said we need to have a game changer that makes workers better able to negotiate and bargain for benefits and rights. And he said, you put this dividend into workers' hands, all of a sudden it becomes a built-in strike fund for workers. Because then your negotiators can say, hey, you need to treat us well, and the company knows that if you do go on strike, you actually have this $1,000 a month coming in that's going to cushion the blow and make it so that you're not going to starve to death after a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. And that changes the entire balance of power between the union and the company. So I'm very pro-union. I think we should be helping workers organize in any context that they want. And we have to try and reverse the tide that has made it harder and harder for workers to get the benefits they deserve. A lot of the negative things that have happened to American workers are because unions have gotten weaker over the last number of years.
Andrew, I got a question for you. I'm leaning towards you for caucus night. But anyway, I was talking to a livestock producer on Monday. He referenced you in a MSNBC forum last fall where you said you, concerning livestock fumes, that you taxed the producers, the livestock taxes make meat so high that consumers wouldn't want it or reduce the intake of meat. You know anything? Remember that?
Yeah, I know exactly what they're referring to. So how many of y'all are concerned about climate change? Yeah, me too. So to me, we have to try and have people internalize the cost of carbon emissions so that we can help transition to a more sustainable future. Now I did the math, and in terms of like the relative carbon emissions of livestock producers and whatnot, they were talking about a very, very like marginal impact. Like, who are the major emitters? It's like the fossil fuel companies and the giant industries with like the smokestacks and everything else. So that's where the burden would fall. The livestock producers, I eat meat every day. Like I love meat, steak, and the rest of it.
He was concerned about that. He was concerned about the everyday livestock producer. I think
Yeah. Like that. So when we did the math, like the everyday livestock producer would see very, very minimal impact from a carbon fee and dividend. It's really the giant polluters that would see like a very significant impact. I do think we have to put a price on pollution and try and shift ourselves to like a more sustainable economy over time. But like to the extent that that would negatively impact livestock producers, it's like this much. And then for fossil fuel companies, it's like this much. Like I am very pro agriculture, livestock, and I would not be able to get through like a week without eating some burgers and steaks. I mean, I'm not that kind of, you know what I mean? Yeah, and I understand it. I mean, if you're in that industry, like you might be concerned about that, but like that is not anything that I'm intent on at all. Like I want to help everyone, not like punish livestock producers. That's for sure. Thank you. It's a good question.
Mr. Yang, I appreciate you coming here to Cresco, Iowa, and I really commend you for running for president, because I know that's a difficult position, okay? Question I have, and I'll be honest with you, I'm very skeptical about your $1,000 dividend program. I have some questions. The biggest one is, how is it going to be paid for? Does it apply to all United States citizens? Does it apply to children, senior citizens? And maybe also, is it people that live in the United States, or is it just U.S. citizens that are here legally? So if you could kind of touch on those. I know I gave you a lot of like questions.
No, those are all great questions. So I talked about how Amazon, trillion-dollar tech companies, paying zero in taxes. And it's not just them, Netflix, Starbucks, zero in taxes, zero in taxes. So if we get our tiny fair share from the Amazons and Googles and Facebooks and Microsofts of the world, you generate $800 billion a year with a big up arrow attached to it. And like it's going to go up. When you have robot trucks on the highways, how much tax revenue are we going to see from that right now? None. Because it's going to be owned by the big tech company that doesn't pay anything in taxes. So that's what we have to change. We have to make it so that if these changes occur, then we're actually getting our fair share of the revenue. So you can get, let's call it $1 trillion off the bat just by making that change. Now here's the wonder of it. You put this money into our hands, the money goes into our communities, into Jason's Chamber of Commerce, like member companies. All of those businesses have more activity, and then they end up expanding, and we have more tax revenue as a result. Conservatively, you're looking at hundreds of billions in new tax revenue because you'd grow the consumer economy 8 to 10%. The third thing is that we'd save billions on things like incarceration, homelessness services, emergency room healthcare. A corrections officer in New Hampshire said this to me. He said, we should pay people to stay out of jail because we spend so much when they're in jail. This is a corrections officer. He sees what happens when someone gets put behind bars. We're spending tens of thousands of dollars on them that I think we're being smart by not spending money on someone. We just end up spending more when they hit our jail or emergency room or shelter institution. The fourth thing is that you put this money into our hands, what happens to us? We get stronger, healthier, more productive. One study said that you would increase GDP by $700 billion a year just by better health and education outcomes. And that doesn't even take into account the fact that more people would be starting businesses, doing things they wanted to do, be creative endeavors, like you name it. So to your questions about who gets it, when does it kick in, every American citizen gets it at age 18 until the day you die. If you're currently on Social Security, it gets stacked on top of it. Because we have a retirement crisis right now, you can't retire on Social Security income alone. You have a fixed income and your costs keep going up. And you know, it's killing us. It's literally killing us. Because you have your prescription drug prices creeping up, and then you have to ration drugs, you have to do all these ridiculous things. We're the richest country in the history of the world. We're at $21 trillion a year and counting. And yet when you all are on your own or your town starts to struggle or whatnot, we're like, yeah, that's your problem. But when the bank starts to struggle, what do? Do you all remember voting for the $4 trillion bailout of Wall Street 12 years ago? Of course not. We never voted for that. We had a choice 12 years ago. The choice was very simple. Bail out the banks or keep Americans in their homes. Which would you have chosen? Keep Americans in their homes. Which did our government choose? Bail out the banks. And do you remember when they were writing these it wasn't a $4 trillion check. They didn't even take a giant check and write like a bunch of zeros. They just transfer the money into their bottom line. Called it quantitative easing. Do you remember anyone at the time being like, I don't know where we'd get the money for these banks? No, they didn't need a $4 trillion. They were like, let's just do it. 1.5 trillion for the big companies 2 years ago. Let's just do it. So now, instead of choosing the banks, I say we choose ourselves. I say we choose our people. We can 100% pay for it, and after the money's in our hands, it'll actually circulate over and over again, make us stronger, healthier, and give us all a path forward during the most historic economic and technological transformation in our nation's history, which is tearing us apart right now. You can see it right here in Cresco, you can see it in Iowa. It started on your farms, it moved to your factories, now it's on your main streets. You need to stop it before it hits your highways. This is only you, Iowa. You're the only people in the country who can do this. If you do not do this, what happens in the next 4 years? More of your stores close, the AI gets smarter, the robot trucks start getting closer to the highways. Do you think 4 years is going to be a good thing at its current rate? We have to turn this around and make it work for you as soon as possible. If it is not working for you, it is not working. And we need you to caucus for this vision of an economy that works for you and your kids on February 3rd. Thank you all very much. Jumping down and joining you, but there's this giant orchestra pit, and it would result in some kind of grievous injury. So I think where are we doing pictures? We're doing pictures? All right, cool. How are we doing picture line?
Andrew's gonna hang around your eyes, and we're gonna take about 10 minutes.
Oh, look at this fun staircase.
Take the mic. Sure. Take that mic. Sure. What's up? How you doing? Hello. Great question, Grayson. You should listen to your mom. She is all. She's all over whatever's gonna be good for you. Let me find my hat. I got a silver marker.
Oh yeah, there you go. See, now you got to get that hat.
Thank you, Grayson.
You were shy about the hat. He is.
Are you related to somebody else?
Yeah.
Hey, Zach. Zach, can I ask you a few questions about fundraising?
On camera or off camera?
On camera.
All right, hang on. All right, now.
I need to get... Alright guys, we need you to go right now to theyanggame.com and donate to Andrew Yang. Right now, we have a $1 million donation goal to hit by midnight tonight, and it's only going to happen with all of you, with your combined strength. We are not powered by corporations. We are not powered by big money. We are powered by small dollar donors, just like all of you out there. If you can donate just $1 right now, every single dollar helps. We can knock out this goal, guys, but it's going to take a combined team effort. And I need to get out of the damn selfies. Excuse me?
She's having a house party for you.
We've been saying this.
Thank you.
It's
Excuse me? Mind if I just sneak by you real quick? Thank you.
He lost his mind in the fourth quarter, though. You could tell he was playing under his
Okay, thank you. Now we're not in the way of the selfies.
You drove them down the field the other game. They got
current donation leader is... Oh, hold up.
And I'm so proud of it.
Our current donation leaders are Maribel and Jose at $100 each. Who is going to top them? They don't call it the Yang game for no reason. Thank you, Jamie, for the $50 donation. Thank you, Patrick, for the $5 donation. Thank you, Christina, for the $5 donation. Thank you, Duan, for the $20.20 donation. Thank you, Karen, for the $10 donation. Hey, buddy, question for you. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions on camera? See what you thought of the event, what you thought of Andrew's speech?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's go somewhere we're out of the way here. Here should be good. Alright, so, see you wearing the Make America Great Again hat, which instantly catches my interest because one of the things that I think is unique about Andrew is his ability to draw crossover support. Like there's
Absolutely.
a lot of
he has a larger
Trump,
coalition of like Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians. That sort of thing.
Like me myself, I lean a little bit to the right. Like usually I wouldn't go for Democrats, but I think I find personally Andrew's message to be so unique. So I wanted to hear about why you came out to this event today, how you first heard about Andrew.
All right.
And also, what's your name, by the way?
My name's Alex.
Alex, Matt, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Matt. So, let's see, go through history. So Andrew Yang, the first that I heard of him, it was on the internet. People were joking around on online forums, UBI, saying that's such a great idea, really pushing it, that they're being satirical and all that first. But so that's what gets me interested, because he has a lot of fresh ideas that other politicians don't have. So it's these new ideas, new thoughts. I'm always interested in hearing what people think, and I thought coming here today would be good to get more perspectives.
And after hearing him speak, what are you thinking now? Is Andrew someone that you would potentially consider supporting?
No, I'm still a hardcore Trump supporter.
Still hardcore Trump.
Yep. At this point, I don't see a chance in Hades for voting for anybody else. I'm not sure what would change my mind. It'd have to be something like completely crazy, like Trump launches wars with several countries at once, or like goes London Bridge terrorist on people, and something that's off the wall even for Trump.
What is it that initially attracted you to Trump? Like his message, his policies, or kind of a combo of both?
So I liked that he was a businessman and his ideas for the economy. He scrapped NAFTA and has this new United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. And he also did phase one recently with China, which is like $200 billion deal. And it's a really big deal for Iowa, $40 to $50 billion worth of agricultural products. So
the trade deals was a big one for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just curious. But
economic issues are big.
Let's say, out of all the Democrats,
and that's what Andrew concurs with too, is that we were losing jobs in the Midwest, and economic,
which is probably
what big factor
drew you out to this event. If you're hardcore Trump, you're going to vote for Trump. But if, let's say, you were to be voting in the Democratic primary, would Andrew Yang be your top choice?
Tulsi Gabbard's my first choice, but Andrew Yang second. I'm really down with Tulsi's message of peace.
Yeah, I like Tulsi as well. So appreciate you coming out. Awesome. There's nothing better than listening to different people's perspectives and giving people a chance. So I really respect that.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a great day.
Thanks for coming, man.
Thank you, Albert, for the $1 donation to Andrew Yang. Thank you, Kenneth, for the $10 donation to Andrew Yang. Thank you, Kevin, for the $25 donation to Andrew Yang. Thank you, Karen, for the $10 donation. Thank you, Nigel, for the $10 donation. Thank you, Mancone, for the $10 donation. Thank you, Mancone, for the $5 donation. Thank you, Victor, for the $10 donation. Thank you, Kathleen, for her second $10 donation of the day. Thank you, Jamie, for the $10 donation. Thank you, Paras, I don't think I said that right, for the $50 donation. Thank you, Maribel, for the $100 donation. You are one of our donation leaders. Thank you, Mary, for the $5 donation. Thank you, Ed, for the $25 donation. Thank you, Harry, for the $5 donation. And thank you, Jose, for the $100 donation. Also, thank you, Benjamin, for the $5 donation. Christina, for the $10 donation. Yvette, for the $5 donation. Michael, for the $40.99 donation. Zhao, I don't think I said that right, I apologize, for the $50 donation. Johnny, for the $5 donation. And Sam, for the $50 donation. I think that catches up. Let's see if any new ones have rolled in. Is anybody going to become the new donation leader? We always get a flood of top dollar donations at the end of events. Yes, that's it. We just got breaking news, new donation leader. Lori just donated $200 to Andrew Yang. Lori is the new donation leader. Let's see if I can grab Andrew's attention. Andrew, could I get a shout out for Lori, who just donated $200 to your campaign?
Sure thing. Hey, Lori, thank you so much for the generous contribution. Really appreciate it. You're how we're going to win this thing. We're here in Cresco, Iowa, and so are you in spirit. Thank you, Lori. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Now, oh wow, hold up. Jamie just donated $240. But that's the thing, Jamie.
My mom's I gotta go. It's so important when you get to high school.
You gotta, guys, you gotta make the donations early, because then Andrew's very busy and it's hard to track him down. Jamie, we appreciate your $240 donation to the campaign so much, but the fact is, it came in after I had already spoken to Andrew. Jamie, you will be the donation leader for the next event, beginning at the next event, but anyone can outbid you. That's the Yang game. Anyways, really appreciate that donation, Jamie, as well as... Oh, and Stephanie just came in with the $205 donation. I'm telling you guys, you got to get your donations in early. Stephanie, really appreciate your $205 donation. Zay with the $10 donation. Jamie again with the $240 donation. Ken for the $10 donation. Franklin with the $10 donation. Lori with the $200 donation, who got the shout out. Sergio with the $10 donation. Albert with the $5 donation. And who else? Wait. Jamie? No, Jamie actually donated $290. Yeah, Jamie is the donation leader for the next event at $290. Jamie's been donating a lot, actually. He donated on the 19th, the 21st, and then twice today. So Jamie is our donation leader for the next event at $290. Let's see what the chat's saying. So there are 801 of you watching. If you want the shout out next time around, you're gonna have to top Jamie's donation of $290, and you're gonna have to top it early, because I can only get so much time with Andrew, and if I miss out, I miss out. I'm trying to do my best. A lot of things are going on right now, but this is going to be the end of the stream. Get your donations in early next time. If you donate between me driving to this event from here to the next event, you become the new donation leader, because the event officially ends once the selfie line ends. And I went to track down Andrew, and Lori had the top donation of $200. I know there's going to be some of you. Ooh, did Stephanie just donate another $205?
Walk on.
Zachary, if you donate in the chat, it goes to the channel, but we don't want donations to the chat. We only want donations to the campaign, so we can hit the $1 million goal by midnight. So the rule is, when the selfie line ends, that is when the donation goes. And Lori had it at $200, even though 2 or 3 people came in right after. I'm telling you guys, you gotta get the donations in early. You have to get them in early. Do it during the town hall. Do it during their QA. Otherwise, I'm gonna miss Andrew. All right, I really gotta go. See you guys.